Welcome to the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, the show that puts the spotlight on the incredible women who fuel the world of motorsports. From drivers to crew members, engineers to fans, and everyone in between, we're here to celebrate the trailblazers, dreamers, and doers shaping the sport we love. Each episode, we share inspiring stories of females of all ages from every corner of the motorsports universe, past, present, and future. It's a journey through the seasons of life filled with heartfelt moments, laughter, and a whole lot of horsepower. So whether you're a lifelong fan, a racer yourself, or simply curious about the extraordinary women behind the wheel, settle in, relax, and enjoy a fun and uplifting ride with us. This is the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, connecting and celebrating women in motorsports, one story at a time. Let's hit the track. Hello, everyone. This is Melinda Russell with the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. And my guest today is Michelle Kish. And Michelle, welcome to the show. I want you to first, if you would, share a little bit about yourself so we can get to know you better. And then also tell me, how did you get from a little girl to where you are now and involved in motorsports?
Well, thank you for having me. I live in Florida. It's, as you can see, a gray day in Florida in January, but I do love living here. I've been here for 17 years. I grew up in northern New Jersey. I've been married for 27 years to Eddie, my husband, I've known since we were 12. And we have dogs. We have no children, but our dogs are our kids, and we're big into rescue dogs. And we've got two right now, a pit bull and a Doberman mix, as well as a foster that we're trying to find a home for that was on death row. So we do what we can. We love the animals, and they make life very joyous for us. And it also helps with the travel. I travel for my business, of course, and my husband doesn't. So he's able to stay home with them, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up in northern New Jersey. I moved to Florida 17 years ago. When I moved to Florida, it actually was racing related because our family's company bought a go-kart track, so also related to motorsports. And we took the opportunity, my husband and I, to move to Florida to manage that, as well as do what I've been doing with the racing series. So I'm happy to live in Florida, and my mom's not so happy in New Jersey that I'm in Florida. But yeah, I've got mom and dad, I've got a brother, and it's really the brother's fault that we are in this business, although he is not really involved in the business anymore. Without wasting too much of everyone's time, my brother was a Formula One fan in the 80s and 90s. One of the only race car drivers I ever knew who was a fan of Alain Prost and not Ayrton Senna. And he wanted to get involved in road racing. My dad was a more of a sort of drag racing street in the 60s muscle car kind of guy. And when my brother got old enough to have his driver's license, he's older than me, my dad wanted to get him into racing, and he wanted to get him into drag racing. My brother wanted to go road racing. So they went to a Skip Barber racing school, and then they bought a couple of Formula Fords, got involved in that. And eventually my dad quit when my brother kept lapping him, and found that my brother had some kind of a talent for it. And my dad, being the entrepreneur that he is, he realized there was no place for my brother to race at the next level professionally. And what he was at that time, Formula Continental, F2000 series. There was no East Coast based F2000 series. There was one on the West Coast and one in Canada. So he and a partner started, and I think it was 1990 or 91, the F2000 series, just out of his business office. And I got involved right away as a work study program in high school and summers and college and whatnot to help him sort of launch that series and operate it in season. And then, of course, eventually my brother quit, got married, had kids, and my dad and I continued to run it for many years. At some point, he did sell the series, and I started working for the person that bought it, and then quit that. My dad and I ended up starting race teams together. So we've been all over the map with always mostly open wheel, although we have an involvement with Mazda's MX-5 Cup series. Now we also operate and promote that series with Mazda and IMSA. So we're kind of all over the map in it, but the start was all to do with my brother wanting to get involved in road racing, and it just took off from there.
Yeah, that's a cool story. So blame the brother. That's always the best way to go, for sure, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So tell my listeners about your company and what you do and how you're involved with IMSA.
So we organize and promote 4 now racing championships. So we are what used to be known as the Road to Indy ladder system, which are 3 championships, USF Juniors, which is where drivers come into cars either out of another sort of semi-professional amateur car series, something like the Skip Barber series, or even some of the really good go-kart kids will come right from karts into juniors. USF Juniors graduates to USF 2000, which graduates to USF Pro 2000, which graduates to Indy Next and into IndyCar. Now, there are scholarships that we provide along the way at every step so that it enables the champion to have somewhat of a solid budget to be able to as we all know, racing's brutally expensive. So to enable the champion, if they're, without enough funding to continue, that champion has a shot at, potentially scholarshiping their way into Indy Next. And we have had some poster children of that. So Oliver Askew, Kyle Kirkwood, some of these guys have come through, and we have, we can boast a lot of the IndyCar field and a lot of the IMSA field actually have come through our program. So we train drivers for, professional careers in the sport. And then on the MX5 Cup side, it's similar. Mazda MX5 Cup being closed wheel series, but also very professional, really tight racing, so much fun. And those guys, some of them stay in there for many, many years, and some will graduate into IMSA careers and other avenues. But it's a lot of fun to be involved in all those different avenues. And at this point, I've been doing it so long that, a lot of that comes naturally. It's organizing, it's very busy this time of year. You've got to, you've got contracts with promoters and events. You've got to get your staff in place. And this time of year, when everyone says, I hope you're enjoying the off season.
There is no off season.
The actually in season is a little easier because you get into a rhythm of races and your staff at the track are handling things.
Yes.
The setup, we have a much smaller staff in the office actually, doing all the legwork that it takes to get everything in place. So that's, organizing if somebody asks me, what do I do on the daily? I don't know. It's a lot, but you're just kind of juggling all these balls in the air all the time, trying to make sure nothing gets missed and everything's ready to go.
So I love about the scholarships because that's not something you hear about in racing typically. And so let's talk about that for a minute. So how do you fund, or if you're willing to share, how do you fund those scholarships? And then, basically, is it the champion then that wins the scholarship, or how does that work?
It is the champion at every level that wins the scholarship. And frankly, it's not really, it's funded primarily by our owner, which is my father. He has construction businesses that are his main primary businesses. This is a labor of love. We would love for this to not lose money, but this is done out of passion. So he's personally funding a lot of it. We do have partners. Continental Tire contributes a lot to, we have a lot of smaller partners too. So none of them are fully funding the scholarships, but they are funding our ability to put on the series and be able to continue down that path. We don't have a lot of revenue streams in this business. It's entry fees, it's commissions on some parts, it's basically it and a few partnerships. So the thing is you want to build something that you're proud of, and you want to put on something that you're proud of. So there are corners we can cut to try to make more monetary sense, but there are corners that, we're just not willing to cut because we want to put on something that, we're doing this. Like I said, Dan's doing this out of a labor of love, and he's not going to do it if he's not proud of it. So a lot of that does come from him.
Well, and don't you find that's true in most of the even track owners? Yeah, track owners, they don't make money. No. I mean, typically,
always making money in racing. Somebody must be so much money going.
Well, don't ask me that question because I'd get myself in trouble. There's only a couple of things I can think of where I know somebody's making money, but like my local track guy, has he made enough money over the years to keep the track open and going? Yes. Has his business funded that track? Yes. Just like your dad does. And so, if you don't love racing, you wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Because you can't, and scraping by and always having to find partners and get funding, it's exhausting.
It is. And I often take on the role of because we have a very small company and I'm no accountant, but I end up being the primary bookkeeper. And so at the end of the year, I'm the one going, how can we keep doing this? And it can be very frustrating and discouraging, except that when you get to the track and you see what you've done and you look at your graduates on the Indy 500 grid and you can be really, really proud. Yeah. So there's, like everything in racing, highs and lows, and they come and go, and you wouldn't be there if it weren't for the highs, and that's what you have to tell yourself when you're in the lows.
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, when you're sitting in your office and somebody's told you no, they can't be your partner anymore, and it's so discouraging, like you said, and then you go to the racetrack and you forget all about that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is why I do this, and I'm so proud of Joe Schmo or whoever it is. It's just why we do it. It's why I do this. It's why you do what you do. And
it is absolutely a passion sport for sure.
And thank goodness, otherwise we wouldn't have what we have.
No, it is we like to joke that it's a drug too, because once you've had some, you can't really stay away, which is one of the things that we try to do in selling partnerships too, is some of our partners are entertainment based partners, so at track experience partners. And once we get someone to the track to experience what that is, they very often continue to come back. It's about getting those corporations involved enough to show up and see what it's all about. And it's once you get that hook in, it's a lot of times you can keep them, but it's, they also have to justify what we know is crazy cost, But if you get them hooked on the drug that we all know it is, they'll find a way to make it make sense. And that's what we kind of hope for, all of us, when we're looking out for those partners.
Yeah. And that's true of partners. It's true of fans, the whole thing. You can't, and it's true really of any sport. I'm a big NFL fan. Okay. So I love the NFL, and it's great to watch it on TV. But if you've never been to a game, then you don't really get what it's all about. And so that live experience, whether it's football, baseball game, or racing, getting those people there for that live experience where they can smell the fuel and they can hear the engines and all those things.
Close with the cars and meeting the drivers, all those kinds of things, where motorsports is a much more accessible sport that way, especially in America, than some of the other sports where they can't really get close to the players. In this environment, you can go to the St. Pete Grand Prix and the drivers walk right by you, and you can go to autograph sessions, and you can meet and chat with them. And from our perspective, we like to get our fans in, especially the real race fans that follow these kids. They'll come into our autograph sessions and follow a kid's career from before, and they can say, before he was anybody, I went and watched him race. Yeah, it's a sort of an ownership of that fan base that, these are our kids, and we watch them grow, and we've supported them the whole way. Oh yeah, that's absolutely true. We have a NASCAR driver that's in the Cup Series that's from right here, Kalamazoo, Portage area. And I've known him since he was a little kid, and he raced against my granddaughters in quarter midgets, and I've watched him go. And so you have that special bond that I know that family. I've watched him race, and that's true. Like what you just said, it's like, oh, I can't miss a race because Carson's racing. I need to watch, and we just need more people to feel that way. And we just hope that, when you get their families involved, and, well, I'm watching because my cousin's doing it. Well, then hopefully you're creating fan bases with them and their families, even after their cousin's not racing anymore, if they've understood the passion, the excitement. And again, it's one thing to watch a live stream, and it's another to get them to the track and actually experience it, because that's when you really get a fan base building. Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about the series that you promote, because, I cover lots of different types of racing, but not as much of the things that you do, because there's not that many women involved. And so we got to work on that some too. But so tell me, how did you get started promoting things? I mean, did it just come naturally, or you did it for what you were doing, and how did it spread out? It started, and still is, a lot of organizationally. And I think the organization side is what my temperament is leans towards. I can get my head around checklists, to-do lists, and get things done, and speedy, because come from Jersey, and Jersey, everything's really fast. And when there's a lot to get done, you need to get it done fast. And so that sort of was kind of an easy thing to fall into. And then the organizing and promoting kind of go together, because we do work with the event promoters too. So that we have partners in that. You're promoting the promoters are promoting the event, we're promoting the series. And so we've got to have the right people in place. We've got our social media team, our live streaming team, our traditional PR team. You've got to have the people in place to hit all the avenues of promotion that you're trying to get, because we know that with our series, we're not a premier level. We're not the top level. We're a ladder series. We're bringing them up from the grassroots. This is AA, AAA ball. This is not, so we know we have limitations to who we're going to attract. But on the positive side, anybody that's looking to partner with someone, either driver or series, our cost to entry is way, way lower. And you're up in front of, we're on IndyCar weekends. So you're in front of the same audiences, not on the TV, but you're on the front of the same fan base with all the same demographics as some of these big events. So being able to tap into that and understand that, or make clear to the partners or potential partners that what we've got to offer can provide an either experiential or promotional, whether it's eyeballs on logos or whatever avenue is your tact that you want to take for your company, whether it's a local or regional or even national. We can offer things that are at a way, way lower budget range than getting involved at the top level. So that's something that we kind of try to focus on the promotional side.
Yeah. And, for people who maybe have never been a race sponsor or a car sponsor, they have no idea how much it costs even to put those cars on the track, much less a NASCAR car. And so, it's educating them about it. And then it's showing them, like, especially you can get them to a race. Look, these are the people that are seeing you.
Yeah.
And how else would you have reached this group of people
for these dollars that you can get to them, and because we have our agreements to be on the events are with the event promoters. We have an agreement with IndyCar for some services, but IndyCar's not bringing us onto their weekends. We're doing our own deals with the promoters. So we have access to all of the same types of things, on the weekend that any other, series on the weekend has. So the only thing that we don't have is obviously your bigger TV audience, which frankly hasn't been that big for a while. Hopefully will be better now for IndyCar with Fox. But the TV side of things has seemed to be a lesser priority on a lot of the partners that we've been speaking to. A lot of them, for us, we've had more success with the experiential, again, bringing entertaining clients at the track.
Yes.
A lot of people in a lot of different businesses, and my father's construction company is one. They bring their best clients on all kinds of crazy junkets. They bring them to Las Vegas and send them on a motorcycle ride in the desert or what, there's all kinds of things. Once you get these guys hooked on we have a big group that comes to St. Pete Grand Prix every year, and now they want to keep coming back every year. This is great.
Sure.
And then they wine and dine them, take them out to dinner. You bring some drivers. Those kinds of experiences are things that, waving the flag on the flag stand, pictures on the podium. You can't get that. You're not going to get that with IndyCar unless you're a real big shot, big time player. So you can get a little bit more bang for your buck by getting in on the grassroots level. And we try to offer some of that on the promotional side.
Well, and the other side of that they, that happens down the road. So let's just say, you bring somebody in and they meet this young driver. Well, then they have a relationship, they feel like, with that driver. So they watch the driver. And as he grows and grows, and maybe he gets into IndyCar or whatever it might be. And then if they've been good about keeping that relationship alive, then at least they do have a connection to a bigger driver in some way.
That has happened. Absolutely. Some of our customers will run into Kyle Kirkwood, and Kyle came to a dinner 3 years ago, and he remembers them, and they have a chat, and it's a personal connection, which forces more fans, more genuine fans, because how it's one thing to be a fan of an NFL team, but when I met Ezekiel Elliott, that made a more personal connection. Ezekiel Elliott was at the St. Pete Grand Prix a couple of years ago, so it kind of it changes your perspective on a lot of different, whether team, driver, whatever it is, when you actually get personally involved a little bit. And so that's what we like to do on our side, because we know that pure eyeballs on logos at our level isn't going to cut it on that side.
Honestly, I don't think it cuts it a whole lot on any side. And I hate to say that out loud, for sure. But let's say short track, so what guys and gals don't understand is, if you go to a local business here in Kalamazoo and you put their logo on the side of your car, you might be racing a 30-lap race or something that night. And that's not really all that much exposure. But what if you took the car to their place of business, or you promote them on social media? You have to do all those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not about the car going in circles around the track. That's for sure.
No, not anymore. It was many years ago, I think.
Right.
And then it's definitely, the model has changed quite a bit.
Yeah, it certainly has. So what's your favorite thing about your job?
I think almost like anything is the people. I think, we always say, like, if you didn't do this anymore, what would you miss about it? I love competition. I'll always miss competition, but I'll probably always be involved in some level of some other kind of competition. But it's the people you work with, the people you've met over the years, and a lot of them are the same people. It's a very small world.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these team owners and staff members I've worked with for 20 years or more, and they're another family. It's and it's kind of weird. My dad and I always joke about it. When you're in the racing world too long, you almost struggle to function in the regular world. Like, it's struggle for me as a woman. I don't have kids. I work in racing. Meeting other couples with their wife and children, I feel a little disconnected and strange because there's not as much of a basis for common ground. It's a totally different world that they can't relate to. Mm-hmm. And not having kids is a totally different world that I can't, there's not a lot to talk about. So sometimes things get almost stranger in the real world than, not that racing's not the real world, but it's that family is something I understand and they understand me. And sometimes when you're outside of that, you feel like a fish out of water a little bit,
Well, and especially too, you're traveling a lot. I'm assuming you go to all those races.
Yes,
so you're traveling a lot. And so you're seeing the race family more than you're seeing.
More than a lot of regular friends in the neighborhood, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, there's nothing odd about that at all, really, because that does become your family.
And when you're on the track, you're with them all day, and then you're with them at night for 5 days, 6 days in a row, and then weekends in a row. It's more than living with with a group of people. And so it's more than just seeing friends every couple of weeks or something too. So it's definitely changes the dynamic in your personal life a little bit. And it sometimes feels odd, but it's certainly something I'm very thankful for. And I would miss that if I didn't have that.
Well, and it's hard to explain it to people how you feel about it. I mean, it's more than passion. For me, I'm assuming for you as well. It's more than passion. It's a lifestyle. And it's I eat, breathe, sleep, think about it, pretty much all the time. And for people who aren't involved in it and they maybe catch a glimpse of something on TV, they don't understand.
No, even it's so funny. My good friends will come to a race, especially, again, I keep bringing up St. Pete because it's my home race. I'm 20 minutes from the track.
Yeah.
Bring all my friends there and they walk around going, I still don't even know what you do, really. And the whole thing is so foreign to them, even after years of knowing them. But it does give them a glimpse of start to understand, okay, wow, I didn't know this is what but without being exposed to it, like we talked about earlier, bringing them there and showing them, there's no way to explain. There's no way to even, some of the shows have helped a little bit. I mean, Drive to Survive has gotten some of my friends to say, oh, is this kind of what you do? And then it's like, well, that's at least a bit of a segue into a conversation about it. But it is, like I said, it's a totally different world. And it's kind of hard to educate someone about it unless you can bring them into it and show them that world and that passion.
Yeah, for sure. So from the time you got started till today, what do you think has been the biggest change to not only what you do, but motorsports in general?
Gosh. Well, I mean, since we're talking about women in the sport, I'd say that ceases to be a weird thing. When I first started, this might be a moderately funny story, so I'll tell this. I did do a little bit of amateur driving, and this is in 1998. I was driving in a regional continental race in Lime Rock Park. And back then you had to volunteer in like one of the volunteer positions. So if I was racing in one class, I had to do a timing and scoring shift in another class. So I was in timing and scoring, and this little girl was sitting next to me, and she's like, oh, you're the one my dad was talking about. He's in your class. He bet his friends that if you beat him, he has to eat a beetle. And I was like, okay. What? I don't even know this guy. Why would you say it? So I finished third in that race, and he comes up to me. So he qualified before me, a few positions before me. I passed him on the track, and then I ended up finishing third. Comes up to me at victory lane, and I said, oh, I hear you have to eat a beetle now. And he's like, no, it doesn't count. My car broke. And I'm just like sitting there going,
Excuses.
But it's just it was so strange to me even then, because I don't think that I grew up in an environment where I thought that it was a thing,
No.
like I just didn't understand that. And now I look back and go, oh, it was a thing like that.
Oh yeah.
And I don't feel that so much anymore. Maybe I was a little oblivious. I've never really felt that unless it's smacked me in the face like that, because I couldn't believe he was serious. I thought it was a silly joke, but they really had a thing about and I was like, it just seems so ridiculous to me. And I don't really see that anymore. And I was even surprised to see it then. But looking back, I guess 1998 was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So
and things have really changed. You don't see, at that time, you didn't probably see any women in the pit area, or very few.
I did start to feel like I couldn't learn without eyes on me. I felt like I was learning, but everybody wanted to see where the girl was on the chart. It was like, and to that extent, that may still be a little bit of a thing.
It is.
Maybe more that we're rooting for the girl, but still, like, where's the girl? The girl. There's one or two tokens. Like, I still wish that were not a thing, because I think that puts undue pressure on female drivers.
It does.
Where they're like, well, I'm the female, but I'm second to last, so now I'm not like representing my people. I don't know. I wish that it was a little bit less of a thing, but I think it's definitely gone in the right direction for sure from back then.
It's so much better. And when I interview girls and women, depending on their age, it seems like the younger they are, the less they have that kind of issue, because things have changed.
Yeah.
The older that they are, they can say, yeah, when I first started, the guys didn't want to get beat by a girl. That's for sure. This was a guy's sport. What are girls doing here? And I don't really see that much, especially in the bigger series, but short track, little tracks, it still happens. It still happens. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I go through life when, with the attitude of my perception, which is I would never have thought of that. So until I'm faced with it, I actually think it stupidly doesn't exist. And then you have to be reminded that idiots are out there before you. So I think that I have been reminded less and less, and I think that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's true. It's gotten so much better. And a lot of that has to do with there's more and more women involved, and not just as drivers, but engineers and crew chiefs and tire changers and all kinds of things. And so the women have shown that they can hold their own. And so I think there's a lot less. And typically when I hear about it at a short track, it's an older person, an older man. It's not the younger ones. Yeah.
So we've made some progress on that, thankfully.
Yes, we have, for sure. So you're a very busy person, with your job and your travel and your dogs and everything. How do you handle taking care of you? We have to have a balance. No, but you don't.
Not always well. No, I have a very supportive family, very supportive. Obviously, I work with my dad. But of course, some of the pressure comes because he's a really hard worker, and he's always raised me to be a really hard worker. So a lot of that pressure I put on myself, real or imagined from him, it's most likely on myself. But my husband's very supportive. I think again, most of that is self-inflicted pressure, but I need to still draw boundaries. My mom is a counselor, and thankfully many years ago, she taught me about boundaries. I don't always do that well, but that's something that I have to, at some point, computer's closed, I'm going to be with my family tonight, watch TV, whatever it is. Because it can be easily a 24/7 job, and I've got very dedicated staff. And if my very dedicated staff member at 9:30 at night asks me a question on a text, I got to take care of them. I want to answer it. And sometimes it's those boundaries that you try to figure out where to pick them. But, we also have a good time. We have a lot of fun again with the dogs. We used to do a lot more personal travel. These two dogs currently are a little bit more work. They are very much fun, very, very much fun, but they're harder to leave with a dog sitter.
Yeah.
One dog's a little bit terrified of everybody, but we have we got a boat. My dad's got put at my dock, so we get to go do some boating. Obviously living in Florida is great. My parents have a house out on Anna Maria Island, which is a good fun spot if you do get some time to visit those kinds of places, and it's only 30 minutes away. Yeah, we do try to get some downtime and enjoy that. So
yeah, and like you said, it's probably not during the off season, it's during
not so much. It's so great. I could be back to back weekends, but like the 3 days I'm home, I might have a day off. Like, because that things start to get into a rhythm. So it is funny that the off season is the busiest time.
Yeah.
But that just is the nature of the organizational side of what we do.
Right. Right. For sure. So, do you think motorsports is a good sport for women to be involved in? Would you
Oh,
encourage
absolutely. Oh,
women to
absolutely.
join?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think I didn't really choose this. It kind of chose me. I didn't grow up, I want to be in racing. I want to be in racing. I literally took my last final exam in college on a Friday. And my dad had said to me like the week before, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know yet. He said, well, until you figure it out, come work for me. So on Monday, I came and worked for him in the series, and I never left because I never figured out what I wanted to do. No, I figured out that this was what I wanted to do.
Right.
You start to realize this is, number one, a ton of fun. And number two, just really rewarding, because it's not, I couldn't go do a job where, doing payroll every week or something where it's the same. Like every time, every day is different. Every event is different. Highs and lows, ups and downs. It's exciting. It's never boring. And even when it's stressful, it's better than being bored. That's for sure. So I mean, absolutely love it. And I think a lot of the women I work with had a similar story where their husband or their, brother or somebody got them involved for some, as we know, a lot of the time it was very male dominated. So it's natural that some of us kind of sidestepped our way in. But when we got here, we all went, this is great. And you know what, we can do this, and we can do this well. And many of the women I work with are like the reason my company runs. I've got Tammy Valkowski, my PR director, Suzanne Hembry, sorry, my I don't even know. I used to think she was going to be my assistant, but she's basically taken over my whole job. She's I have women that just come in and just, you don't even have to worry about asking them to do anything. They just do it, and they make your life a lot easier. And I'm very thankful for the women that I work with and that I've been able to surround myself with, as luck would have it.
Yeah, that's the best part. And it's those relationships, like you mentioned earlier, it's the people. If you didn't love the people as much and have all those relationships, you might not love the job as much.
100%. And I think that probably goes for many jobs, but just a regular office job that's the same day in, day out, week to week, I think I would lose my mind. I don't think, and maybe part of it is that I'm lucky enough to know that there's something better out there. And a lot of people may just fall into something and think this is life, this is work. Well, it's not. It can be a lot more interesting and exciting. And even if it's not motorsports, I think that one of the things that I learned is just that there's so many industries and jobs out there you never thought existed. Yes. You didn't even know that was a thing you could do.
Right.
And I don't know, because then in school they just teach you could be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, or whatever. You just think that there's like this limited scope. And when you start to be exposed to all these different industries and also one of the interesting things is our drivers and their families, especially drivers can be very wealthy, and a lot of their parents come from industries where they've made a lot of money in something I had never heard of. There's just so many industries out there. I would encourage females and anybody to just look into all the different, anything that you might be interested in, look into the industries that are surrounding it, because it might not even be, you might think you want to do this in the sport of racing, but when you get there, you can see that you might also really be good at this, and this there, because there's so many, specialties in every single industry. And this one is not an exception, for sure. We have a lot of different roles that we can fill well.
Well, and that's exactly why I wanted to have you on the show, because I interview so many people that are mostly drivers, obviously, but lots of other occupations. But there's so many things that racing couldn't be on the track without this and this and this. Mm-hmm. And one of the most interesting that I ever interviewed was the hair and makeup lady for NBC. And she flies on the plane. She lives in North Carolina. She flies on the plane with whoever, and she does the hair and makeup like for Dale Jr. and when, all those. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was a thing. And so, there's so many opportunities, and
you might not think that your specialty even relates to racing, but it could. So, if it's a sport that you suddenly realize even later in life, or, and you're already through your college career, say, wait, I wish I'd gotten involved in that. Well, you probably still can. You can probably use your expertise and knowledge that in some way that you didn't realize was an opportunity.
Well, and when you look at it, racing is a business. And so they need accountants and photographers and travel agents and all the things, right?
Absolutely. Every single thing that it takes. I mean, it takes a lot to keep this rolling down the track.
It sure is. So how soon does your season start? And tell me, where's your favorite race to go?
So the season starts next week at Daytona for the 24-hour with our MX5 Cup series.
Yeah.
I have a love-hate with St. Pete because it's my home race. That just means that my friends come out of the woodwork and need passes. And my favorite track is Road America.
Oh, I love Road America.
My favorite event is probably Toronto. I love Toronto.
Okay.
Just the fans are really, same with Road America. Great fans, really excited, happy to be there. In Toronto, I don't get as much chance to be part of what's going on track because we're paddocked inside the convention center. But just the fan experience and the town, being in the city, and again, coming from New Jersey, I was right outside New York City my whole life. Yeah. Toronto's a proper city, and I kind of miss a proper city, restaurants and stuff going on.
Yes.
Not saying I would live there, but to go to for an event, it's a great city to visit.
Yeah.
And Road America is just, again, the fans, there's dogs everywhere. I love that. Elkhart Lake, the town.
Yep.
Just they always improve that track. Every year you go there, the people who manage it take really good care of it and make sure that every year something has been improved.
Yeah.
And it's never a bad experience going up there. I love it.
Yeah. I've been there a couple of times for motorcycle races. My husband and I are bikers, and he more so than I had to sell my bike after I had back surgery because I just couldn't do it. But we used to go to Mid-Ohio, and we went to Road America a couple of times, and that's just a beautiful track. Well, they both are, but love, and it's not that far. I live in Michigan, so
come out to the IndyCar race. It's so much fun. It's like I said, they do a great job with it. We usually have glorious weather. There's always stuff going on in Elkhart Lake at night in town. There's streets and obviously down by the lake. There's just a lot. You always feel like you're part of something big there. I love it.
Yeah, love it. Well, I may have to get a pass for that weekend.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't have friends coming out of the woodwork for that, so hit me up. Send me an email. I think I can.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Michelle, is there anything we haven't talked about that I've just obviously missed that you want to share about yourself or what you do or motorsports, anything at all?
Oh, it's a tough question. I guess, I think we covered a lot of it. I guess I would just say, like, what we've talked about is encouraging people to get involved in things they might not have otherwise thought of is something that I'm blessed that I fell into it by family, because if they hadn't gone down that road, my life would be far less interesting. So I'm very thankful for that. And I think if you're going to be breaking in on your own without a liaison or, whatever, an easy entrance point, like somebody that you already know, it's going to be tougher.
Yes.
And obviously that I don't want people to get discouraged. I would say, start going to races, introduce yourself, meet people,
volunteer.
Volunteer. And I think obviously volunteering at local tracks or even for internships. If you've got a team based in your area, stuff like that, it might take a little bit of work and staying in touch with people over the years to get involved, but don't give up, because I think it's a very rewarding path. Much more interesting than a lot of real jobs.
Yes, real jobs. I get what you're saying, and I love it. You're absolutely right, 100%. So, well, Michelle, I appreciate you taking time this afternoon.
This was a lot of fun
to be on the show, and so I'm going to thank you for that. And then just hold on, after I end the recording, I've got a little paperwork to do. So
sure, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
That's it for this episode of the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. We hope you've been inspired by the stories I shared today and feel more connected to the amazing community of women in motorsports. Remember, whether you're behind the wheel, in the pits, or cheering from the stands, your story matters. And together, we're driving change and celebrating every milestone. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who loves motorsports as much as you do. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and more incredible stories. So until next time, stay inspired, stay connected, and keep racing through life. This is the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, where every woman's story is worth celebrating.